obviously disappointed with the result of last week's game. Did not live up to our expectations or standards. Over our time here, we really haven't had those types of games. So obviously disappointed, and when that happens, it forces you to look at everything from the top down, starting with me.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your host, Isaiah, and we have to talk about James Franklin and Penn State because their program is in shambles right now as they suffer one of the worst losses in college football history, losing to UCLA 42-37, and that was totally unacceptable. It's one thing to lose to Oregon or Ohio State or Michigan or Indiana because those are the great teams of the Big Ten. Those are the dominant teams of the Big Ten. But to lose to a UCLA team, y'all, that coming into that game was 0-4, had just fired their head coach a couple of weeks ago, and is probably the worst team in college football, is absolutely unacceptable. And this is supposed to be Penn State's, most talented team they've had in a very long time. This might be their most talented team they've ever had. This is definitely the most talented team they've had, y'all, under James Franklin. This should have never happened, and the way they lost was really embarrassing because it's not like, UCLA just got lucky and won that game. It's not like they won the game on, a last-second field goal. No, y'all. UCLA won that game fair and square because they absolutely dominated Penn State in the trenches, which was very surprising because we know Penn State, they pride themselves on being very strong at the line of scrimmage, being very strong in the trenches, y'all, and they got dominated. They got bullied. UCLA ran for 269 yards. And scored 42 points, y'all. Are you kidding me? This is the same UCLA team that just 3 weeks ago scored 10 points against New Mexico. Let me say that again. This is the same UCLA team, y'all, that just 3 weeks ago scored 10 points against New Mexico. New Mexico is a pretty average team in the Mountain West. But yet they scored 42 points on what's supposed to be one of the best defenses in college football. Come on, man. That's totally unacceptable, y'all. And listen, James Franklin, he's a very good coach, and he's done a lot of really good things for Penn State. When he got there, their program was in a mess. Y'all know what happened. I don't have to go into details, but y'all know what happened before he got there. Their program was a total mess. And he has resurrected them, and he's made them into a really good program, y'all. But Penn State has a dilemma, and their dilemma is how long are they going to be okay with being just good enough? Because that's what keeps happening, y'all, every single year. They win 10, 11 games. Obviously, last year they did make it to the college football playoffs. And a lot of people thought they could win a national championship. They lose to Oregon. But outside of last year, y'all, every year, James Franklin has been there. They continue to just be, a really good team. But when are they going to elevate to becoming an elite team? Because the fans are getting tired of this, y'all. And this loss right here, though, was inexcusable. Again, as I stated a few minutes ago, it's one thing to lose to Ohio State, which is what they done. We know since James Franklin has been at Penn State, what do they do, y'all? They normally dominate the really bad teams, really average teams, and they lose to great teams. That's what they've done, right? So they'll lose to teams like Oregon and, Penn State and Alabama and Clemson if they play those teams. They'll lose to teams like that because those are great teams. They've struggled when they've gone against really elite teams. But this right here, losing to a team that you were favored by 24.5 points. And again, y'all, who had just fired their head coach a couple of weeks ago and had a new offensive coordinator who had never called plays a day before in his life. And that's the team you lose to. And you still have to play Indiana and Ohio State. Y'all, Penn State's only going to win 8 games this year, max. Because they're not going to beat Indiana and Ohio State. If they couldn't stop UCLA, how in the world they're going to be able to stop Fernando Mendoza, y'all, and Indiana, their tremendous offense? How are they going to be able to stop Ohio State with Carnell Tate, with Jeremiah Smith, with Bo Jackson in the backfield? How are they going to be able to stop those teams? And they couldn't even stop UCLA. This was absolutely embarrassing, y'all, and we have to blame James Franklin. I know some people want to blame Drew Aller, and listen, I know Drew Aller, he has not performed well so far this year. He has really underperformed, and he does not look like a first-round pick right now. But, y'all, the offense still played pretty well, right? They scored 35 points. They had 37 points, but actually, 2 of those points came from a safety that UCLA took. So they technically scored 35 points offensively. That should be good enough to win most ball games. But it wasn't because James Franklin and his defense, y'all, gave up 42 points to arguably the worst team, arguably the worst offense in college football. So they're going to have to figure this out. what direction they want to go in. Do they just want to continue just being a really good team? Or does Penn State finally want to become an elite team, y'all? And you also got to think, how long is James Franklin, going to want to continue to be there? Because when he came to Penn State, his mission was to win championships. Remember, he's a Pennsylvania native. That's why he left Vanderbilt, so he could come back home and lead his program to championships, y'all. This team isn't anywhere close to being a championship level team. They're not. And it's an indictment on him because this roster is very talented, y'all, from top to bottom. They got talent all over that roster. And he has won, had more success with teams in the past that weren't as talented as this team. And you look at who they lost to, y'all, so far this year. Oregon, okay, Oregon's really good. But again, if you're a great team, you should be able to beat great teams sometimes. Right? If you want to beat a man, y'all, you got to what? Beat the man. So sometimes you are going to go up against great teams. You got to be able to beat them. So we can't always use it as an excuse. Now, I think a lot of people have done that for James Franklin and Penn State. Oh, well, when they go up against great teams, that's the only time they lose. At some point, though, you got to be able to beat great teams. He has not been able to do that, y'all. When is he going to do that? When are they going to do that? When are they going to elevate? Will they ever elevate? Or this is how it's going to continue to be? But something has to give. They're going to have, as I like to call y'all, a coming to Jesus meeting and figure out how they're going to move this program forward. Whether that's going to be with James Franklin or that's going to be without him. Because this should have never happened. I'll tell you right now, y'all, this type of loss would have never happened with a coach like Nick Saban, a Bear Bryant, even Dabo Swinney. I know, right now Clemson's really struggling, but y'all, when Clemson was at their best, they never lost games like this, right? They never lost Brian Kelly at LSU. You don't lose games like this. Those type of coaches, y'all, would never allow their team to be unprepared going up against a team that they know they're much better than. That would have never happened on their watch. But it happened with James Franklin, y'all. And this just isn't good enough. And again, James Franklin is a really good coach. In Penn State, they're going to continue to be a really good team. Maybe not this year because, again, they still have to play, Indiana and Ohio State. But they're going to continue to be a really good team. But it doesn't look like they're ever going to be a great team, y'all. And at some point, you want to be great. You want to be great. It's like when my Tennessee Titans, when Jeff Fisher was our coach, we had several seasons. We would go like 7-9, 8-8. That's solid. That's not bad. But we want to be better than that. You don't want to be just good enough. At some point, you want to elevate and become an elite team, become a powerhouse, become a dominant team. And I know that's what Penn State wants, y'all. I know that's what their fans want. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Penn State decides to do with James Franklin, y'all. But, man, it's not looking good for Penn State right now. And they are definitely not going to make the college football playoffs this year. So there you have it, man. That was me discussing James Franklin and Penn State and what they should do moving forward. Give me your comments about James Franklin and Penn State in the comment box below. Remember, y'all, lab's good message. So what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm an enemy. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.
Hey, money old, I'm on an old school beat. Hey, not Halloween, but I got some tricks that give me trees. Hey, I put my maid in the street, cause that gon' sweep me. Street sweeper, she'll keep 'em.